Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the City of Morgantown Board of Zoning Appeals. Please turn off all cell phones or other devices that may disrupt these proceedings. It is the duty of this board to consider requests for relief from the requirements of the city's zoning regulations, to consider conditional use permit requests, and to hear administrative appeals. The board conducts business in the following order: review, amend, and approve minutes of a previous meeting. We'll then move to unfinished business, take up new business, and conclude with announcements from staff. Each request is heard in the order that it appears on the agenda. For each conditional use and variance request, the following is done. I will introduce the agenda item, and the Planning Division will present a staff report, which may or may not offer a recommendation. The applicant agent will be asked to present their justification for their request, which may include questions by members of the board. We will then open a public hearing to hear testimony in support of or in opposition to the request. Rules regarding public testimony are as follows. Anyone wishing to testify during the public hearing may do so once recognized by me, or may, in lieu of oral testimony, submit written testimony to the chair. All recognized speakers must approach the podium, state their name and address for the record, and speak clearly into the microphone. All comments must be addressed to the board, should be relevant to the application, and may not be of a personal nature or personal attacks. All speakers will be limited to 5 minutes. If members of the board have any questions of the speaker, that time will not be counted toward the total of 5 minutes. If there's a large number of speakers, including many who are part of groups or organizations, I may, to avoid repetitive comments, elect to ask for a representative to speak on behalf of the group or organization. Speakers are notified that irrelevant comments or comments of a personal nature or personal attacks may result in the speaker forfeiting his or her opportunity to participate in the public hearing. I may elect to recognize the applicant agent at the end of the public hearing to provide rebuttal or additional comments, which will be limited to an additional 5 minutes. If members of the board have any questions of the applicant agent, that time will not be counted toward the total. After all testimony is heard, I will declare the public hearing closed and no further public comment will be permitted. Uncivil, unruly, and/or disruptive behavior at any time during this meeting is prohibited and will result in removal from this public meeting. State law requires the board to consider findings of fact for each conditional use and variance request. The request cannot be granted unless a majority of the quorum present finds in the positive of all of the findings of fact. The board may elect to continue the hearing to another date if it needs more information. Applicants and requesting parties will be notified in writing by the Planning Division of the board's findings and conclusions. Regardless of whether a request is approved or denied, decisions of the board can be appealed to the Circuit Court of Monongalia County within 30 days upon receipt of the written notification from planning. Any work done relating to the decisions rendered by this board during that 30-day period is at your sole financial risk of the applicant. Thank you very much for your consideration and respect for these proceedings. Let's call roll. Ms. Cook.
Here.
Mr. Schombacher.
Here.
Mr. Misfelt, our
Here.
newest member, and Mr. Benison present. We do have a quorum for the record. So we're considering meeting minutes from our August 21st, 2024 meeting, which was a regular meeting. Any questions, comments, additions? Anything to amend in the meeting minutes from the August 21st?
I move to accept the minutes as stated.
I second.
We have a motion to accept meeting minutes August 21st, 2024, moved by Mr. Schombacher, seconded by Ms. Cook. How do we vote?
Aye.
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 We have hereby accepted the meeting minutes from August 21st, 2024. We're going to move to new business now. The first for this evening is variance request 24-142, City Neon, Inc., 1350 Earl L. Core Road, request by Ms. Miller on behalf of West Banco Bank for variance relief from Article 1369 of the city's Planning and Zoning Code regarding the conditions permitted for post and panel signage, City Tax District 14, 6th Ward, Tax Map 31, Parcel 101.3 in the B2 Service Business District.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
You obviously have your packet. I'll be presenting off and following the slides on the screen, but the applicant, on behalf of West Banco Bank, seeks to install an 18-foot tall post and panel sign that includes a 50-square-foot internally illuminated sign cabinet, while the new post and panel sign would be 0.5 feet smaller, and that's a correction in your packet, than the existing pole sign. The cabinet area would be the same. And so here is a map of the subject site, West Banco at Hartman Run Road and Earl Core Road. Here's the Google Street View looking at the existing signage that is here now. And the applicant provided a plan to say, here's what the new signage would look like. Again, going from a single pole pylon sign to post and panel. And you can see on the image on the right-hand side, an image showing the approximate change in height. It's basically half a foot change there. And then you can see the imagery that was, or the sign plan that was provided in your packet for this project. Well, the difference again in the two circles there are highlighted basically is basically the change in sign height. So the existing sign height is a 0.5 or half a foot taller than the new proposed sign. Based on the conditions in your packet in terms of the development standards for signage according to 1369, Article 1369 of the city's Planning and Zoning Code, the applicant requests a 12-foot tall variance from the maximum height requirement for the post and panel signs, as well as an 18-square-foot variance for the total sign area, sign cabinet that's permitted. And that will conclude staff's report.
All right, thank you. Do we have a representative for this case? Hello there.
Crystal Miller from City Neon, 1095 Chaplain Road. So we are here on behalf of West Banco. They are updating a very aging sign. This sign has been renovated several times over the years, and now they're just wanting to start fresh. In an effort to make it more code compliant, I won't say completely code compliant, because obviously we're asking for relief. We're switching from the single pole to the double pole because single poles are no longer allowed by current zoning code.
Okay.
They are hoping that they can maintain the square footage that they already have as a way of wayfinding and advertising. This area, there are 5 banks along this stretch, so they would really like to keep their advertising and marketing in this stretch. This stretch also has like approximately 33 signs that are above the city regulations prior to code changes over the years. So they are just really hoping that they can replace the sign with something new and keep the square footage for their advertisement and marketing as it already is.
All right. Thank you for referencing the double pylon, or the single pylon no longer permitted. Does anyone have any questions?
Not at this point, no.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Yeager, I have a question for you with regard to the single versus the double dual pylon. Is the single pylon disallowed above a specific height?
In this district, it's not permitted at all.
At all?
Correct.
All right, thank you. Any questions?
Not yet.
Do you want to open a public hearing?
Well, I just wanted, just as per convention, no conditions suggested by planning, which is,
Correct.
okay. There being no questions, we're going to open public hearing for this case. Anyone wishing to speak in support of or opposition to case number VAR 24-143. Now is your opportunity to do so. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing.
Staff recommendation? It is the duty of the Board of Zoning Appeals to determine whether the proposed request meets the standard criteria for a variance by reaching a positive determination for each finding of fact submitted by the petitioner. If the board disagrees with the petitioner's findings of facts and determines the proposed request does not meet the standard criteria for a variance, then the board must state findings of fact and conclusions of law on which to base its decision to deny the subject variance in accordance with West Virginia State Code. Staff, after review, had no comments or modifications to the findings of fact presented by the applicant, and as is customary with signed variance petitions, no recommendation was submitted.
Ms. Miller, I have an additional question with regard to finding of fact on page 18. In terms of the sign, like the spatial parameters, can you speak to what you're proposing? Is this driven primarily by corporate branding guidelines and also just, visibility and wayfinding and locating the business?
That is
Is there a high degree of consistency among the signs that your clients placed?
Yes.
In
And
Morgantown?
I can speak that we have installed signage for West Banco throughout West Virginia and as well as Illinois and Kentucky. The 5x10 cabinet is the standard cabinet for any ground signage that they do. And I do believe that's actually the exact measurement of the cabinet that is there now. At one point, there was more signage on this, because at one point, they did have a digital board, but
Down below?
down below, in 2017, they did the renovation. They removed the digital board and just installed cladding around the actual pole, steel pole that is there. But that is the standard cabinet size, 5x10, that they do at all locations, as long as the city will allow it, per city. And then the height-wise, they were just hoping that they wouldn't lose
Given what's
their ground, what they
already
already have there.
in the corridor?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Well, just given comparable signage that's already
in the
in the
area.
corridor. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Discussion? I mean, it's straightforward. It's not inconsistent with comparable commercial signage in the corridor.
And they're attempting to bring it more into conformity.
Especially, they're doing their best to meet the double pylon requirement. So that imposes certain restrictions with regard to decisions they have to make in designing the signage, so. Well,
When we say it's similar to signs of neighboring businesses, is that like documented somewhere? Like the height is
would you
the
like
height
to
of
speak
other
to that?
signs?
I mean, we have had other somewhat similar cases.
So the most recent case was when Aldi's got their type 3 site plan approval, and you can see on the left-hand side of the Google Street image, it's a post and pylon sign, and at the time, the Board of Zoning Appeals did grant them a variance for the height.
For the height?
Yeah,
It was
because
primarily
the max height for this type of signage is 6 foot.
Okay. So it would be consistent with.
Can you speak to, like, in terms of the 18.5, is there any signage in the corridor higher than that?
And I think it's pretty consistent with what's already there. There may be a few that are taller, depending on some of the shopping plazas and some of the height there, but
17 feet sticks in my mind for other cases we've considered.
again, the existing height of the signage is 18 and a half feet tall. The new signage will be 18 feet tall.
Yeah,
So it
it's
is,
a little shorter.
they're,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I was going to suggest maybe a 40 square foot, a slightly downsized aerial, but that's, irrespective of the branding guidelines. But given that they have to meet the dual pylon,
Yeah.
that square footage would be, it wouldn't be in proportion to the requirements of the double pylon, I don't think.
Right.
It wouldn't look right.
Right.
It wouldn't work functionally either. So, do we have a motion, maybe?
Yeah. I
Or-
move that we accept the findings of fact as stated in the packet.
And I will Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Misfeld, do you have any other questions, comments, or?
No, nothing
I'll go
else.
ahead and second that motion to accept the findings of fact for this case, VAR 24, let me get the 143. Oh, wait a minute, no, that's right, yeah. So this case is VAR 24-143.
Mr. Chairman, sorry,
Yes.
it's 142.
Oh,
Yeah, on the top of
Okay.
the staff report, that
no,
was-
it is, well.
It's 142.
There's another error in the packet then.
The agenda is correct.
Okay, so it's VAR 24-142,
Yes,
excuse
sir.
my error. How do we vote on this motion to accept the findings of fact for VAR 24-142?
Aye.
Do we have a motion to grant the requested variance?
Yes, I move that we
For the signage.
grant the requested variance for VAR 24-142.
I second.
We have a motion to grant the variance for VAR 24-142 by Ms. Cook, seconded by Mr. Schombacher. How do we vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So we have granted your applicant's request, Ms. Miller, for this case, and you will receive written notification from planning, generally 7 to 10 business days, and then just as you well know, keep in mind, any work that your client undertakes during that 30-day appeal period is at your client's sole financial risk. Next case is VAR 24-143, City Neon. This is referenced as 1160 Van Forest Road, request by Ms. Miller on behalf of Encompass Health for variance relief from Article 1369 of the city's Planning and Zoning Code regarding wall and monument signage requirements in a residential district, City Tax District 15 in the 7th Ward, Tax Map 6, Parcel 74, in an R1 single-family residential district.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
The applicant, on behalf of Encompass Health, seeks to replace an existing monument sign on Van Boris Road with a new 6-foot-tall internally illuminated monument sign, and the applicant also seeks to install a new internally illuminated wall sign with channel letters on the exterior of the building fronting Chestnut Ridge Road. The new wall sign would be 66.92 square feet in area. Again, this is the location of the subject site, Van Boris Chestnut here, Burroughs going to the west. Again, here's another Google image. This is the existing monument signage here that does not have any lighting associated with it now, and there is no exterior signage on the building, both on Van Boris or on Chestnut Ridge currently. Based on the conditions for signage in this particular area, the applicant requests the following variance relief. For the proposed monument and wall signage, a variance from Section 136908 B23 of the city's Planning and Zoning Code for internal illumination and sign type materials. The sign type materials proposed include acrylic and vinyl. And for the proposed wall sign, a .92 square foot variance from the total wall sign area permitted under Section 1369.09, which is 66 square feet. And the calculation needs one modification in your packet, as well as the findings of fact that was prepared by the applicant. It should be approximately 440 linear feet, which is the frontage on Van Boris Road, times .15, which comes up with the calculation of a maximum of square footage allowed of 66 square feet. And again, the applicant's requesting slightly above that. While the establishment has frontage on 2 streets, only the primary frontage along Van Voorst Road was allowed to be calculated for the non-residential wall signage. In commercial districts, you can, if it's a corner lot, you can look at both sides of the building that front to come up with the maximum wall signage. But because this property and the surrounding WVU property is all R1, that's where the calculation's different, so.
Thank
And
you
that-
for
that will
addressing
conclude-
the discrepancy there, in
Yes.
as far as the meeting packet goes. All right. Do we have a representative?
Crystal Miller, City Neon, 1095 Chaplain Road. So we are here in behalf of Encompass Health. They are an established business. They are in direct partnership with both WVU hospitals and Mon Health hospitals. It is a rehabilitation facility for several different varying medical diagnoses,
medical
I should
groups.
say, or yes. So they are seeking an illuminated monument sign and an illuminated wall sign. This is to help with their wayfinding. As the hospitals become increasingly busier, they keep adding more departments along the hospital, more specialized services. A lot of those specialized services then feed into the rehabilitation center with patients. You have an increased amount of families and so forth visiting people that are in the rehabilitation center itself, that are from out-of-town areas that may not be familiar. In an effort to get wayfinding on the 705 or Chestnut Ridge side, they want to put the wall sign on that side of the building in order to direct the traffic around the corner to the main entrance there on Van Voorst. This particular zone is R1. It's probably one of the few, if only, R1 zones in the city of Morgantown that does not have an actual house or residence in the entire zone. It is solely owned by WVU, so it's a state-owned property. They lease the building for their business. So that's essentially why we're here, because even though it's WVU-owned, the business itself is not. They are just affiliated with WVU. So that puts us here asking for, can we do this? And like I said, this is a very unique R1 zone. And because of that, I don't think it would ever erode or set an ill precedence towards the zoning code, because there are no houses in this particular zoning area, which is very unique. The only roughly designated housing area is really a temporary housing area, and that is the Rosenbaum House, which actually has illuminated signage on the building. So I'm pretty sure that just about every single building that WVU owns, there is some type of illuminated signage or larger than what a city code would allow signage. And that is specifically for wayfinding, to get patients and families where they need to be within that hospital complex.
And what was that residential building again?
The Rosenbaum House.
Rosenbaum House.
Which
In
is-
straight line distance. Is it across? I'm not really.
It is
across Van Voorst?
across
Side.
from the hospital. It's kind of catty-cornered from the stadium.
Oh.
So you have the
yeah,
Rosenbaum
right,
House, and then you have the Ronald McDonald House.
Right,
It's completely other side.
other side.
Yeah. other side.
All right. Any questions? Thank you, Ms. Miller.
All right, thank you.
Actually, I have a question about the R1. Can you speak to, like, historically,
It's R1.
why it's continued as R1?
Most of WVU's property is R1.
It's just as R1. Right.
And there's actually, this parcel actually has several different uses on it, including Compass Health. It also includes the surface parking lot for WVU as well
Mountaineer
as.
Station.
Interesting.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Okay, we're going to open the public hearing for this case, BAR 24-143. Anyone wishing to speak in support of or in opposition to this case, now is your opportunity to do so. Seeing no one, we're going to close public hearing. Mr. Yeager?
So staff had no other comments or modifications with regard to the finding of facts, other than page 31 in your packet, changing the finding of fact that referenced the building measurement of 450 feet, changing that to 440, which then computes with all the other additional calculations that were presented in the staff report. And then, as is customary with signed variance petitions, staff did not provide a recommendation.
Thank you. All right. Do we have any questions? I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I agree.
The monument sign it's a very reasonable aerial variance request, given the busyness of the Van Voorst corridor.
Yep.
The applicant's only asking for
Less than what?
one additional wall signage on the side street frontage of the building, which is, I'm a little surprised by that. They're not asking for
Yeah.
more facade signage. Discussion or questions? Any?
Mr. Chairman, if I may? Did
Yes.
have one question for the applicant, just a clarification. On the monument sign itself, the sign cabinet that will be interior illuminable set on top of that aluminum base, right, essentially?
Yes, essentially, you're going to have inside this cabinet, you're going to have two steel poles coming up out of the concrete foundation, and that will slide down over those poles. So the illumination, what you'll see illuminated on that is that upper cabinet.
Right. The the lettering at the bottom is vinyl, I believe it was referenced
Yes,
in
it
the
is vinyl.
plan. Okay, thank you.
Any questions about the illumination or the materials for the monument cabinet? And that'll be set back from, what's the setback, just out of curiosity, for the cabinet?
It can't be in a sight vision triangle, and it's clearly set back far enough that there's no issue there.
Okay, I'm ready to move.
Do we have a motion to accept findings of fact?
Yeah, I move that we accept the findings of facts as stated in the packet for this case.
And again, this is VR 24-143.
Yes, sir.
Do we have a second on, I'll second the motion to accept the findings of fact for this case, 24-143. How do we vote? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Do we have a motion to grant the variance for VAR 24-143?
Yes, I move that we grant the variance for VAR 120, VAR 24-143.
Second.
Seconded. So we have a motion to grant by Ms. Cook, seconded by Mr. Schombacher. How do we vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Miller, we've granted your applicant's request for this particular case, VAR 24-143. Again, written notification from planning, 7 to 10 business days. And as you well know, any work that your applicant undertakes during that 30-day appeals window in the circuit court is then at your applicant's sole financial risk. Thank you again for coming down.
Very much. May I just say thank you for all of your time over the years. This will be my last
Oh, no.
PTA meeting. This is my replacement, Mrs. Sarah Maloney. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next case, conditional use 24-150 or 150, Poor Choices Pub and Grub, referenced as or at 227 Chestnut Street. Request by Mr. Smalls on behalf of Poor Choices Pub and Grub for conditional use permit approval for a restaurant private club use at 227 Chestnut Street as required by Section 1331.05 of the city's planning zoning code regarding permitted land uses. City Tax District 11 in the Second Ward, Tax Map 26A, Parcel 47, in the B4 General Business District.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So again, just follow along the slide, some references or images that are in your packet. So the applicant seeks conditional approval to operate a restaurant private club use at 227 Chestnut Street. And while a restaurant private club use requires conditional approval from the Board of Zoning Appeals in the B4 district, such uses must also be in compliance with Section 133106 regarding the supplemental regulations pertaining to the permitted land use table. And so in your packet, I referenced both the two sections that are specifically referenced under the supplemental regulations, which is Section 18 and then Section 1331.0627. And of particular note with regard to this application is 1331.0627C, which states that in the B4 district, the Board of Zoning Appeals may waive the requirement to be in a business for 1 year as a bona fide restaurant when the applicant's written description of the business operations, menu, and floor plans demonstrate clearly that the establishment will meet the criteria in this subsection. And secondly, that such private club shall provide a seating capacity for at least 50 persons at a table or counter maintained for the principal purpose of serving meals. And in addition to, the applicant provided a menu, so that was provided in your packet. And then the two images on the right-hand side show the site plan, so the front of the house and then in the rear of the house. So provided that information there. And that will conclude staff's report.
Thank you, Mr. Yeager. Do we have a representative for this case?
They are present.
Please approach the podium and state your name and address for the record.
How you doing, guys? My name is Jamel Smalls. I'm representing Poor Choices Pub and Grub. Address is 227 Chestnut Street. So the reason for our appeal is just to be better serving the community. Going through. Give me 1 second here. So about 60% of restaurants in the first year of operation fail. So there's no big reason of why they fail. There's several things that are combined in that. You have poor cash flow. You have low profit margins. You also have inexperience, disorganization, and high staff turnover. So one thing that's not said about that is the community. Personally, I've been in this community since I came to WVU in 2001. I worked in the service industry for over 20 years. I've worked in retail management, where I've been awarded several awards and recognition for what I've done to bring recognition to Morgantown, being an exceptional people leader, and also exceeding goals. So since opening Poor Choices about a month ago, we've had a lot of help from the community. A lot of people reached out to us. Obviously the people at 123 around the corner, the people at Chestnut, always giving help to us, whatever we need. The people at BC Mac offering late night tacos and things like that, just inviting us into the community. And that's something that I really appreciate, and that's something that I want to continue doing for the longevity of things. Things that we've done inside of Poor Choices since we've been open, we've done paint and sips. We have a zombie walk coming up that we're a part of, next week, but we're going to do face painting for the children. We do watch parties for WVU. We have open mics, which we do every Wednesday, where we invite people to come down to express their arts and be themselves, and it's no charge. It's just open mic, come and have a good time. Same thing with comedy. We do that also with karaoke too. So the entertainment piece is something that we want to continue to do within the community. As far as our food goes, all our food is prepped in-house. We don't buy anything. Everything is prepped. It fits what we want to do as far as the community aspect too, and as far as how how we view ourselves as a pub. You know, we have board games, we have Connect Four, we have Uno, you know, things like that where people could come, eat, have a good time, enjoy themselves, also get some snacks, get some food, and move on. Since the pandemic, fork and knife restaurants have been on the decline, so that's why we kind of changed our menu around to be able to kind of justify that, so customers could come in, eat, enjoy themselves, have a good time, and go on with their day-to-day life. So with that being said, my greatest accomplishment, like I said, is family and also the community itself. I know I'm up on my time, but just being a role model for the people in our community is something that's very important to me. You know, I do have 2 young boys, and being able to pass this legacy down to them, you know, something they could carry on to the future, is something that we're looking forward to. And also for the young kids in the community who look like me, can see me being a positive role model, and seeing that I, you know, can come from a place where I came from and be able to be successful and be able to say, hey, if you do the right things and follow the laws and do things like that, you can be successful also. Just looking to add that stuff to the community also, and just have a good time doing it, you know, and just be here and just be a great addition to the South High Street community. Like I said, you know, they accepted me well, and I'm appreciative for everything that they've done. So,
Thank you. So you're here tonight to request that restaurant private club
correct,
designation.
correct.
With regard, and, I mean, restaurants serve food, so your exhibit, the menu exhibit, does that represent what's currently on offer, or what you're proposing going forward?
Great question. So currently, this is what we have, and obviously as a new restaurant, you want to get a feeler for what your clientele is going to be, then you can make additions going forward. So what we've done is we created a menu that was for general public. You know, we obviously did surveys and things like that, met with people to kind of figure out what people wanted, and this is why we came up with this menu. But as seasons change, we'll be adding additional things to our menu. We'll be adding soups coming in the future, especially as it starts getting colder. You know, we do have a sit-down option with a Cincinnati chili that we make. That's basically spaghetti with chili sauce on the top, that you can actually do knife and fork with if you want to. And additional to that, desserts and things like that are something that we're gonna add as we move further on. Like I said, we've only been open for a month, so we're still in the testing phases of our menu, but we do have plans to expand that menu with the additional revenue and things like that that we'll be making in the future.
How big is your kitchen?
My kitchen, is it on there?
Yes.
So it looks like it's 7 by 11 or 8 by 12.
Correct. It's not a huge kitchen, but we do make it work. Everything on our menu is made in that kitchen. We were able to produce lots of food, and we've had a lot of success with the food that we made over the month that we've been open. We don't have a hood, you know, so everything that we do make is, you know, paninis. We have paninis. We have hot dogs, which are elevated. We also have dips and things like that we make also too. So the soups will be made in the kitchen too.
So if you go, not that you're not serving sides, I mean, you have some plates approaching, you know, more traditional entree.
Yeah.
With regard to, you know, again, you're requesting restaurant private club. If you move in the direction of more conventional sit-down, like entree dishes, can you add a hood and build out your kitchen and maybe modify adjacent space to accommodate a more conventional commercial kitchen, or no?
Yes, you can. You know, that is a possibility. But I feel like, you know, with the way that things are changing, and, you know, which things are changing ever since COVID, bigger restaurants, you know, people are moving more to smaller restaurants, eating out as less, you know, so when people come out, we kind of want to make sure that they get their food quick and make sure that they can have everything that they need and be able to have that entertainment part as part of our pub that we have. So we want people to actually sit down, enjoy a meal, play cards, play Uno, play music on the jukebox. And also, it's kid-friendly also. We have Legos, where kids come in and play Legos, eat hot dogs, drink sodas. Last week, we had a 10-year-old girl come in with her mom, and she sung karaoke. And it was awesome. It was her birthday, and everybody sung to her. So that's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. We're just trying to, trying to expand, what we have now, so that way we can further serve the community and everybody that's in it, and I hope that answered your question.
And then being responsive to changing trends in food service. And I'm just asking this as a rhetorical, hypothetical question. Well, maybe I should ask this question. For restaurant private club, Mr. Yeager, under that definition, just to build some flexibility into what we're considering here from Mr. Smalls, does that definition take into account takeout food service? Or is the conventional definition of restaurant private club just primarily sit down?
The restaurant definition itself is more catered to, or more akin to dine-in service,
Just
which I
putting
think
that-
the applicant talked
Right.
about how that would work out and what their vision is for the property, so I think
Right.
it would be consistent.
Just so everyone's clear on
Yeah,
what the definition is.
Right.
and there's no saying that we can't do takeout service also.
Well, but you have to meet the requirements of the,
Yep,
the parameters under the definition, under the, the various sections bearing on that, the designation is restaurant private club.
A couple more questions. When did you open again?
August 8th, I believe, that was our first day.
Okay, so you've been open since...
A little more than a month, yeah.
A little more than a month?
More than a month,
Okay.
yeah.
So we would need to waive the one-year bona fide
Correct.
restaurant requirement. We can no longer consider 60/40, but can you estimate the proportion of your sales that are food versus alcohol?
Food versus alcohol, just because we sell beer at a lower price point, more than our food is. We sold a lot of food, to the point where we're shopping a lot. So, I don't know the exact number of what it would be. That's something we could probably figure out. But, estimated, we still sell, I wouldn't say 60/40, like the previous rules would be, but we're definitely close to 50/50.
Okay. Is the primary, so is the primary purpose of your establishment to serve food?
A little bit of both. Food, absolutely, because we want people to stay. When we're not like a typical, bar where you walk in, get a drink and leave. We want you to actually stay and have a good time. Due to our capacity, we want people to be there to stay entertained. We want you to stay there for a long period of time. That's why we serve shareables. We serve dips. We serve the toasties that people could share, and also we serve the hot dogs too. That may take a little bit of time to prepare also, but in the meantime, we do have that entertainment aspect to what we do. It's what we specialize at, and that's the Uno games, the Connect Four, the jukebox and things like that also. So,
Okay. And pursuant to the regulations that were cited, you're required to have 50 seats, seats at a bar, which is primarily for the serving of alcoholic beverages, shall not be counted toward meeting the minimum seating. I noticed there was not a seating plan with the application.
That was my next question, too.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, in the plan, there are seats provided. It doesn't look like right now it meets the threshold, so in staff's recommendations, if you were to consider to go through with approving it, it'd be conditioned on providing an updated site plan
Okay,
to
condition.
show that that meets that requirement. And we've had recent cases that have come through where that has been an issue or consideration.
we do.
But
You mean seating for like,
yes, 50 patrons. That's the seating capacity for,
when that also
50
includes the
person.
bar, correct?
if food can be served there, yes, sir.
Correct. Yes, then we more than meet that criteria.
if we were to, I would feel more comfortable having that updated site plan available. So that we can,
Yeah, we-
see it as an exhibit.
Yeah, we definitely have customers who eat at the bar currently, and we do have the space to do over 50 seats.
Well, he also said it's going to be, we're going to put it in as a condition. If they can't meet this, if they can't meet the seating plan, then they can't, it won't go through. So I think that should sufficiently cover it, to keep them moving forward.
Right. Yeah, I do see that. I guess I feel more comfortable.
So how many
seeing it.
seats do you feel you have right now?
I would say at least 60 to 70,
Non-bar seats.
with, including bar seats, because
Well,
that's.
that's okay as long as they're serving.
Yeah, you can serve food at the bar, and we definitely
Okay,
have.
okay.
That's what covers it for me.
Okay.
So is it enough to serve food at the bar seats?
Absolutely.
I mean, the way it's written, it seems to be if it's primarily for ordering liquor or beer, it doesn't necessarily count as a restaurant. Or should be counted
I
towards
think there's
seating.
something about like how much like distance is between each stool or seat. But
Okay.
on the applicant's site plan, they did show some tables with the seating already present.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think that's representative of everything that possibly could be considered as seating.
Okay.
So general seating versus bar seating, what would you say, can you speak to the proportion?
We have,
Just because, it's who's going to police which of your patients, or patrons is ordering what? Is a given patron only ordering food? Is a given patron only ordering
well, I
beer?
think the concept of the pub is for you to be kind of with your friends and with your people that you're in there with. So as far as, if they're sitting at the bar, we have couples that come in, they sit at the bar together, they order food together, they get a drink while they wait for their food. They eat their food, and then they may either go into the back
Right.
and play a game or do everything like that. So everybody gets carded. So it's a big bar, so people can sit there and still have an intimate conversation and still be able to eat their food and do everything that they came in here to do.
Right, but then move
And
to
also
a
at that same time, at the bar, we still take into consideration the entertainment side of it too, where we do play Connect Four, we play Jenga, things like that too, because we want to have that atmosphere of, where people can come in and have a good time, enjoy food, and get a drink while they're there.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, one other point, I'd like just the discussion about the intent of the restaurant and making sure that that's a primary purpose. The applicant did provide hours of operation, which start early in the day, 11 o'clock every day, and go through into the evening hours, so
With
that's another
service,
component.
with service, just to state it for the record, lunch service beginning at 11 a.m. Wasn't that?
Yeah, so I think there's one
Expected.
day,
An
the
expectation.
applicant could talk.
Mondays.
Yeah.
Mondays we're not open, as of
Yeah.
now.
And there was one day, I think it was 10 o'clock for brunch.
Good on
That-
Sundays.
Gotcha.
Sundays open a little bit earlier.
So I guess the only other question I have is the previous two applicants at this site never, did not have liquor licenses. And you've been in operation since August, what is the urgency to meet it, for us to waive the 1-year waiting period?
I think it comes in a couple different waves. I do believe that one is times has changed, since COVID and things like that. The clientele is different. We don't have many college students at our location, so we are going, for a little older crowd who do want to come eat and they do want a cocktail with their actual dinner or their meal that they're getting. We've had several people request that when they came in, during our opening, since we've been open. So this is something that we definitely need. Also, the financial part to it also, just to stay financially on top of things, and just to, with the profit margin of just having beer is not as high, when you add that spirits in there, that allows us to overcome some of the things that failing restaurants are going through right now, just to avoid that as far as, low profit margin, employees, staffing, things like that, which are issues right now that most restaurants are dealing with. We just want to get ahead of it so we don't become a statistic in the future. We just want to be able to get our ducks in a row and be able to drive productivity so we could be able to stay where we're at in this community and do the things that we have planned and more in the future.
Right. And then with regard to the liquor license, Mr. Yeager, can you speak to like hours of operation requirements?
The hour of operation requirements?
Well, just in terms of what are your
We close at 2 o'clock. We're not open past 2 a.m.
2 a.m.
And I think even with the liquor license, you're allowed to stay open till 3. So we're still going to be closing way before that anyway.
All right.
Like I said, it's not a college bar, so I don't see many people my age out that late anyway. On a regular basis, so.
All right, thank you. Any other
Nope.
questions? Thank you, Mr. Smalls.
Thank you, guys.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in support of or in opposition to case conditional use 24-150, please approach, state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, hi. Mark Downs, 212 Kingwood Street. President of Main Street Morgantown as well. And I'm here in support of Jamel and Lindsay and Poor Choices, asking that their request get approved. To Mr. Schamberger's question about previous establishments in that location, I will point out that the Deckers Creek Yacht Club that was there before did not succeed, did not make it through that first year to get that under their belt and meet that requirement. So I think granting this variance is going to increase their likelihood of success. And anytime our friends and neighbors in our community ask for, invest their lives, property, fortune in building amenities for our community, we should do everything in our power to support them. And I hope that you see this that way. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. LJ Giuliani, my wife and I are property owners downtown, 123 Pleasant Street, and we have the building that has the new Chestnut Beer Hall. Having Jamel and company decide to take the risk of opening up a business downtown, we welcome it. Anyone that is going down that path, we welcome them because we need more bodies and we need more opportunities for people to come and visit our downtown. So our proximity is right just around the block from where Poor Choices are, and the way we look at it, we're all wanting to create some synergy in respect to into what we're trying to create down on Pleasant Street and what Jamel and company's doing. Like Mark mentioned, you've got community dynamics, people that have their roots deeply into our community as it is, and a good support network. And so any tools that we can give them to ensure success, well, that's gonna benefit me personally, my wife personally, Bill, who has Chestnut Beer Hall. The more folks that we can bring down to our pocket of Pleasant Street, we welcome it, and we hope Jamel's investment will encourage others to look to downtown as a possibility. And it doesn't have to be a bar or a tavern, but just like Monkey Wrench Books. All of this sort of it creates synergy of sorts to encourage other businesses to eye our downtown as a possible place where they can set their anchor and open up their business. So I encourage you to consider Jamel's proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry it takes me so long. My name is Al Bonner. I live at 225 Moore Street. I own Jeans over on Wilson Avenue. Jamel is my son-in-law. my daughter Lindsay. I'm here just to speak in support of them and to not repeat what other people said, because I hardly heard anything you guys said today because of my hearing. But Jamel and Lindsay, they're both respected members of the community here. Lindsay's been a teacher at Westwood for many years. I don't remember exactly how many now, but she's been recognized by the board. She was even recently recognized for NASA for things that she's done, teaching students about, growing crops and stuff, possibly, on another planet or something. Jamel he's been in the business world for many years here with AT&T. He was, started out working there, and he was became the manager and took the store to #1 in his region. He left there and he went to Comcast. That was kind of a nightmare when he got there, but he's turned that place around, and they've done very well, taking it to the top of the region there. So I would just like to say that, Jamel's not one of these guys that just comes into town, opens up these bars, tries to make as much money as you can, as fast as you can, before people catch on to exactly what he's doing and stuff. He's a respected man, and he'll run a good place, and I just want, to put that out there that, he would be great for the business and great for the downtown area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, John Trumbull, 1141 Charles Avenue. Good evening, BZA. I'm here to speak in support of my friends at Poor Choices Pub and Grub and their request before you this evening. I want to start by telling you about some of my experiences. Since its opening last month, I've spent time there and gotten to know the owners, Jamel and Lindsay, who are trying to create a unique, fun, and welcoming space in our downtown. They've sponsored my kickball team, and we usually stop in for a pint or a soda and a hot dog after our games on Sundays. My teammates with kids, and myself included, will of course bring them along to celebrate a win, or about half the time mourn a loss. Poor Choices has delicious food, board games, Legos, sodas for patrons of all ages. For those who are not partaking, they also offer an array of non-alcoholic options. I've been in late nights, and as a townie, find their locale to be welcoming, away from the bustle of more youth-tailored establishments. I've been in with friends during football games when Jamel had cornhole set up out front for folks to play. Last night, I walked by and saw that they had a good crowd playing team trivia. And I know that they're working on a host of other events, including board game nights, live music, Lego nights for the kids or the young at heart, and a bunch other that Jamel has already mentioned. Simply put, Poor Choices is not another chain. They're locally owned by folks who are well established in the community. They're not another dance club or a drink and drown bar. Recently, City Council recognized that we've been holding our well-intentioned and responsible local business owners back and repealed the 60/40 rule. And that said, I'm all for good regulation and recognize the value of vetting aspects of what kinds of establishments we want in our downtown and how they operate. In this case, Poor Choices is a business that I support, and I request the approval of their liquor license. Let's face it, not everyone drinks beer and wine, and offering patrons a cocktail isn't going to be the end of the world. This license is a tool that will help these small local business owners succeed, and I ask that you grant that to them. Thanks.
Thank you.
I didn't know they were going to be here tonight. I'm Chilton Wise. I'm a lawyer with Bowles Rice. I'm here for another matter. But I lived on Park Street for nearly 10 years, and when I did, Lindsay was one of my neighbors along with Al Bonner, and she babysat my kids. They're all doing great. I know she's a hard worker. I don't know Mr. Smalls very well. I've seen him on and off, but I think if Lindsay, her parents, if you remember the Schaups, Fred and Dieter Schaup, Fred was her father, and Dieter was her uncle, and all those kids are doing great. And if Lindsay says that she's going to do it, and she picked Mr. Smalls as a mate, I think that says something.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in support or opposition to CON 24-150 Seeing no one, we're going to close the public hearing. Mr. Yeager? Any?
Staff recommendation, after review, staff had no additions, corrections, or modifications to the findings of fact presented by the applicant. While staff did not provide a recommendation at the time of this report, if the BZA were to approve the applicant's request for conditional approval to operate a restaurant private club use, staff would suggest it be contingent on the conditions that are listed in your packet. And that will conclude staff's report.
Thank you. I have a question regarding condition 1. You reference Article 1331.06, Section 27. With the subsection CNF, are there any other, are those just the most pertinent subsections?
No, there's multiple under that subsection, but this one specifically, because the applicants basically presented an hours of operation, it's the board has considered at 11 o'clock start time as a way to kind of justify the waiver, because they are going to be open earlier in the day to provide food to patrons, so.
Lunch and dinner. Right.
Yes.
Are there any, I mean, you can't include all the subsections, but can you speak to, are there any other subsections that have salience or pertinence to our considering this case?
Yeah, so one of the recommendations in the packet is number 3, and that specifically refers to the site plan that the applicant provided here. While there are a number of seating opportunities shown on this plan, it doesn't necessarily meet that threshold at that time. So staff's recommendation is to get that updated, and as the applicant said before, show what's can be at the bar for seating for food purposes to try to get up to that number, and if they can do that, then it would meet the requirement in the code.
And there's no, with respect to this, the buildings, like the overall square footage or footprint, there's no reason why aerially Mr. Smalls can't meet the seating, what's expected.
I haven't been there for some time, so I can't speak to that. I don't know what the occupation load is for the fire department, but that's what.
And that, well, with regard to the fire marshal and maximum capacity, occupancy, that's outside our purview.
Right, I'm just referring to that to say
just
that
wanna-
if the fire marshal says that they can have 90 people in there, then there's another component for us to say, well, then there should be probably enough capacity and seating to make that work.
And that's above and beyond what's required with regard to the
But for
conditional
example, if
use.
the fire marshal's office said that it was lower, right, than the 50, then we would probably then have an issue there, but this is not the case.
Well, I mean, all right, so with regard to minimum occupancy, if the fire marshal makes that determination and that number is below what the requirement that we're considering, does that void our granting of the conditional use? Just to put that out there?
I can't comment on that right now, I can't comment on that, but I would imagine if the capacity is less than the number of seats that can be provided, then they wouldn't be able to beat that threshold, but it doesn't seem like from what the applicant has said here tonight that will be an issue. It's just not shown on the plan. And that's why staff's recommendation was to, if you approve the conditional use, then just get the plan updated so that it can reflect the number of seats.
Right.
I agree.
Does everyone here feel comfortable with the condition and not having an updated site plan available to us to consider?
Other applications have had that information, have they not? In the past, that we've considered?
Well, they've had, so other applications have had that information, but, I mean, I think we're trusting our other fellow people in the city, such as Ricky's department, and that to follow through on that. We don't have to worry about that. We do not have to worry about that.
Are we comfortable with granting the 1-year bona fide waiver? I mean,
So there's no other issues with, like that kitchen as it's currently outfitted being used?
Not from the city's point of view, but this will allow the applicant, if it's approved, to go to the state and to make that application for the liquor license at the state level.
Are there any discrepancies between what the state requires and what the city requires? Like,
In terms of,
like kitchen configuration and?
yeah, our
serving
code does not reference anything about a kitchen equipment or anything. It's more about the intent and purpose of what the establishment's being set for. So again, in your packet, the bona fide waiver to do that looks at, as it says in the packet, the business operation hours, menu, floor plan. That's what it's basically saying that the board should be considering when it grants its approval, if it's going to give a waiver to that requirement.
I guess for me, you know, we're being asked to give permission with respect to this business operating as a restaurant, private club. There's a kitchen. We're comfortable with hours of operation. I guess the only sticking point for me is the character of the food service. Does it meet, is it consistent with, you know, a conventional definition of what constitutes restaurant, private club? And not even taking into consideration the alcohol service. But I think the emphasis or primacy should be given to the food service side of things, in either granting or not granting this request.
And while I do respect that the restaurant business is difficult and that many do fail, as we never do consider financial hardship is not something that this board considers, correct?
Yeah, we consider it financial hardship.
Well, we can consider it, but, I mean, the key issue is, does this undertaking as proposed, does it meet what's required with regard to the definition of restaurant, private club? But, on the other hand, maybe this case doesn't. But things do change, and, you know, with respect to how restaurant, private club is defined, maybe that's, maybe the time to come for reconsideration of
Right.
the definition and what's required, you know, in terms of the criteria used to determine or that go towards supporting the definition of restaurant, private club.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if
I mean, if I hear you, Mr. Schellenberger, you know, to me, the menu items, they're not really, you know, traditional entree dishes.
Is that really, is it,
It's still, go ahead. Mr.
is that
Baker.
really, I mean, we have guidance with the restaurant in terms of the definition of the restaurant based on, I mean, there's criteria here, right? The right written description, menu,
Right.
floor plans. It's not very onerous. It doesn't really speak to anything in terms of what's actually being served. And the conditions require that they're going to comply with,
Seating.
right, the seating requirement. I don't, everything seems to be in order based on what's required from the guidance of the code, from what I see.
But where's the, and Mr. Yeager, maybe you can point it out, where is the written description of the operations that they submitted?
That was not included in your packet, the actual code definition.
Can you state the definition?
I cannot recite it. If you give me a few minutes, I could pull it up. But the note I wanted to make is that, when we've had conditional use applications come in similar to this, if I recall the menus that were presented to the board, there was never an entree or an appetizer. This is consistent to what we've seen in applications before. So it's not, I don't think it's straying too far one way or another in terms of what you're wanting to see on, on a particular menu. Again, operations, hours, menu.
Right.
And I think it has to do with a lot with the clientele. I mean, Mr. Smalls already stated that his clientele, they're not focusing on students, but they're focusing on family-friendly business, which several of the community members have already stated that they've already joined, gone down, been a part of. So I think it's clearly shown us that this is a food, and like you said, to have a drink there, and I think that's more the, to get, some liquor with it if you wanted to.
Right.
So that's where the restaurant and bar label would come in, is to be able to serve that, correct?
What was that? I'm sorry, that was part.
I said to be able to serve liquor is what they're asking for permission tonight.
That's the private club.
And right, that's the private club part, so, yeah, I maybe stated that wrong, but, incorrectly. But, like I said, more family
And
friendly.
it sounds as if your emphasis isn't on the alcohol service. That's not where your focus is.
Right.
It's not that it's an afterthought, it's offering that to accommodate patrons who are interested in that, are going to enable the other aspects of your business to be a success. But that's not your primary emphasis. And you are still meeting the food service requirement.
Right.
Even though, maybe most people don't agree with me. When I think, restaurant, private club, I think more traditional, like set plate entrees. But given where you're looking to locate, and given the character of the demographic group that you're looking to accommodate, that traditional view of what should be on offer at a restaurant, it just is not workable.
Yeah, well, he said it's.
And that's not, that's different from us trying to accommodate your hardship. That's not the same thing. It's you have to be responsive to the market that you're trying to operate in.
Yeah.
But I would also further say that, yes, the previous business that was in that space did not make it through the year, but there was also a business there that did not serve liquor, and it lasted for many years. So we could, and also there is no, we could grant this and it could still go under.
I guess my rebuttal to that is, in terms of just being more liberal or conservative, or however you want to characterize it, with regard to granting or, waiving the probation, the one-year probation. If Mr. Smalls, we hope that, your endeavor succeeds, but if it doesn't, and there's another applicant, it's granted, it's case by case.
Right.
And I don't,
Yes.
so you're concerned about setting a precedent?
Well, no, I'm not concerned about setting a precedent. I just.
That is consideration, though.
The thing that I'm coming back to is, if we have had cases in the past where, and I know our rulings in one case cannot affect the other, but that have had sparse menus like this, and we've granted them, and it just feels like is this a restaurant? I don't see a restaurant when I look at
Right.
this.
No, I hear you.
And that's where I'm coming from.
Right.
Now I could be wrong, and if they come back and if the applicant comes back in a year and would like the liquor license, we could grant it. Like, that's where I'm at.
Well, are we reading requirements into what constitutes a restaurant? I mean, what's the authority for that? In terms of what constitutes?
We used to have an authority, but we do not anymore on that.
I just don't want to read in requirements for a restaurant that aren't, in code, giving notice to people before, they invest time and money into something. For a requirement that's not written anywhere and that they're going to find out, later on in a board meeting.
Well,
Can we read the definition of restaurant, private club into the record, Mr. Yeager?
You'll have to give me a minute to pull that up. 1 second. The keyboard does not work over there, so I was going to
Oh, okay.
I guess while we're waiting on the definition, I would just point out that part of my concern is, where is the line?
Right.
And we've been flexible about that line.
Mhm. Well, with regard to the line, and I think you're referencing specifically menu. If that's the area at issue,
Yeah.
what would, no, go ahead. No, go ahead and, let's read the definition of,
Definition of a restaurant, private club means a restaurant that also dispenses liquor has been issued by a license by the West Virginia Alcohol and Beverage Control Agency.
What's the definition of a restaurant?
Restaurant means a commercial establishment where food and beverages are prepared, served, and consumed primarily within the principal building, and where food sales constitute more than 60. And that part was repealed by city council. So that cannot be included as part of the definition or the consideration. So that you're left with the
so,
first
but it's
one.
implied the majority in terms of receipts, it's food.
No. This is in terms of, the 60% is in terms of gross sales receipts versus alcohol versus food. So if you look at the first part of that definition, where it says an establishment where food and beverages are prepared, served, and consumed primarily within the principal building.
So to be clear, Mr. Yeager, if someone were to come to us, and I know this is just from my understanding of the law, if someone were to come to us and prepare, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and sell them, and they're consumed within that place, we would be obligated to consider that a restaurant?
I wouldn't necessarily say that way, no, but it gives you definitely, the flexibility is on the BZA to look at, is it a restaurant? Is it primarily concerned with serving food that's prepared in a building and consumed on site?
Right.
Now, there's other different classifications, tavern uses, restaurant, private wine uses, where the food service is provide food or no food, right? You don't have to. But this one says it has to be a component, and the applicant's showing you that there's a menu there, so.
All right.
Yeah.
Given that definition, I think there's food service, and with respect to the seating, the applicant has made it plain that that seating is not geared primarily or exclusively toward alcohol service.
Correct.
It's
Correct.
food, it's both. So,
All right, I have
What's-
one more question. Is this variance only granted to this applicant, or does it go to subsequent
it's specific to.
is it specific
Well,
to them?
Actually, that's a good question. You're just operating, right? Or you're not owner operator, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you are?
So the request by the applicant is for conditional use.
Right,
And there's
Just for him.
Right, and so
only for him, okay.
there's no condition in here that if the applicant wants to sell or change business or do whatever, there's no requirement that they have to come back to the Board of Zoning Appeals. That's something that was done in the past, but it's not part of this conditional
Okay.
or recommendation by
Okay.
staff.
Okay.
Wait a minute. So if he transfers the property, the conditional use goes to the new owner operator?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is the answer to that question yes?
Yes. Well, sorry,
So if Mr. Smalls elects to transfer the conditional use, if a different owner comes in and wants something similar,
I don't own the building.
that new person doesn't have to come before the BZA?
so I can clarify. So the conditional use
Yes.
at this point could be transferred to a new owner.
And we've done that,
Yeah.
yeah,
All right.
multiple times.
Unless you put language in your, in conditions that says otherwise, this could be transferred if the business owner wanted to do that. That'd be within their right, as long as the use is not abandoned.
For more than a year?
You're right.
Right. Do you feel comfortable with that? Because we could make that a condition.
Make that a condition.
I will just state that hasn't been done in recent applications, that condition hasn't been.
Just in the interest of not working against setting precedents. Do we have, I'm just putting that out there.
So what is your proposed condition?
Make the conditional, granting of the conditional use, the change in the use, or granting the conditional use specific to Mr. Smalls and non-transferable.
Well,
I'm just putting that out there.
I mean, it'd have to be able to be transferable. You would have to say, though, that you'd want them to come back before the board. And there's a whole, that's your decision, but.
well, actually, that would be covered under condition 5, would it not? Any expansion of the conditional use or substantial deviations in operations, a change in ownership would be a change in operation, right? Yeah.
Well, that's not the way
That's not
he's
Mr.
saying it,
Yeager's
because that's not what he's
interpretation.
saying.
Yeah, that's not staff's recommendation.
Well,
Read it in. How do you want it?
I think that the applicant, what he's proposing with respect to the definition of restaurant, private club, he's meeting that. So, I'm sorry.
I mean, if the law says what it says, then we're bound by the law.
It's what's in code.
Yeah, that's what we are bound to consider, so.
Right. Do we have any questions about the findings of fact?
Actually, yeah, we're going to change some of the findings of fact. this is already a current business and has been for 12 years. I would be more comfortable with there has been a business of similar character in operation for the past 12 years.
Similar, yeah. Any other changes? So can you reread that, just so we can...
So for the record, on the first part of the findings of fact, congestions in the streets will not be increased because there has been a business of similar character for
12 plus years.
12 plus years with minimal negative effect. Is that agreeable to everyone?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the first section on page 44. Mr. Yeager?
So let me just read that back. So it's on page 45 of 64, and where it says undue congestion of population will not be created in that, the response would read, there will be no congestion of population because there has been a business of similar character in operation for 12 plus years. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Any other changes or emendations?
No.
The rest of the findings of fact seem agreeable to me.
Yeah, I'm fine. Do we have a motion?
I move we accept the findings of fact with the, one is modified, yeah.
Seconded.
So we have a motion to accept the findings of fact with the emendation, addition, congestion in the streets will not be increased, referenced on page 44, with a second by Mr. Misfelt. How do we vote?
Aye.
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 Aye. Do we have a motion to grant the request conditional use?
Are we okay with all the conditions?
Oh yeah, let's reference the conditions, thank you very much. There are 5 conditions, and these are referenced on page 41 of the packet. We want to mention specifically, there's the expectation of an updated site plan with seating that's compliant with what's required. And that's referenced in condition 3, provide an updated floor plan that shows the establishment has seating capacity for at least 50 persons in accordance with Section 1331.06, Section 27, specifically subsection F of the city's planning and zoning code. And there are 4 other conditions. Do we have a motion?
I would just like to say for the record that it would be helpful to have some more, going forward, some more concrete guidance in legal terms on what we should actually be considering a restaurant. I just want that entered for the record.
I would agree with that. The definition of, and, you know, maybe the definitions bearing on what constitutes a tavern may be due for review. I mean, we consider these cases on a case-by-case basis, and there's variability among cases. However, because we are, I mean, this is a judicial body, it would be helpful to have, you know, just specificity.
Well,
A higher level of specificity.
It's a
in terms of, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, go on. Sorry.
No, just more specificity with regard to like criteria used to determine what constitutes a definition of A versus
Yeah.
F versus Z. Because we are dealing with
So,
legal issues.
yeah. I while I recognize that 60/40 is no longer in play, there needs to be, well, in the absence of that standard, yeah, I'll
Just so that we
I'll
can
quit.
make a determination.
I'll quit
You know,
rambling.
what, you know, the definition that's available to us so that we can make a determination as to whether something that's proposed meets the requirements of a given definition. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, I will go ahead and move that we grant the variance with the conditions as stated in the packet.
Seconded.
So we have a motion to grant this requested conditional use. And again, I want to just reference the specific case number. This is CON 24-150. And we have a second, so the motion by Ms. Cook, seconded by Mr. Misfeld. How do we vote?
Aye.
Aye. So, Mr. Smalls, we have granted your request for conditional variance. You will receive written notification from planning 7 to 10 business days. Keep in mind, any work that it can be appealed in the Circuit Court of Monongalia County, and any work you undertake in that 30-day period, you do at your sole financial risk. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, and I believe we have one other case this evening, VAR 24-151, Brenda Hughes, at 120 Doyle Street, request by Ms. Hughes for variance relief from Article 1331.08 of the city's Planning and Zoning Code regarding the location and setback requirements for accessory structures in residential districts, City Tax District 14, 6th Ward, Tax Map 33, Parcel 34.5 in the R1A Single Family Residential District.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
And here's a map of the subject site. The applicant seeks to move an accessory structure or shed into the front or side yard of the property. In doing so, the applicant will not be following or be in concurrence with Section 1331.082 of the city's Planning and Zoning Code regarding accessory structures and uses. More specifically, that particular definition states that accessory structures, if detached from a principal structure, should not be placed in the front yard. And if placed in a side yard, accessory structure should not be located closer to the street than the principal structure. And again, in your packet, the applicant did provide some images of the property, and I think the purpose of that is to show what the findings of fact or the hardship is, given the topography of the property, and why the shed is going to be moved from where it currently is now to another location. And then this is just for reference purposes. Again, this is approximately, that blue square is the approximate location of the house.
Yep.
And then again, on the imagery provided, the applicant did not provide an exact location or measurement or distances between where the accessory structure is going to go with respect to the property, but assuming based on the applicant's request, it would be some place in the front or side yard. So there's more information that's probably needed, and you kind of probably see that in the staff recommendation, but that's just to provide you kind of where we are at right now.
So if just that hypothetical placement there, if the accessory structure goes there, would that be considered front yard or side yard? Just given the unusual configuration of the lot.
Good question. That'd be considered the front yard. So
That's
the
the
star would
front?
probably,
Because the primary right-of-way or the primary street is to the
Yeah.
left of the orange square.
so the address to the property is on Doyle,
Yep.
right? And so Doyle's frontage is here. And
Well,
then
that's
even though there's the access drive to the property actually goes through another parcel,
Right.
we would probably not consider Lestravia as frontage for the property. So if you're looking at the lot front, imagine drawing, a dotted line off from both corners of the house. And
Right.
again, that might not be the exact location that the applicant's talking about wanting to put the property, but again, or put the accessory structure, but they can address that in their, in comments. And you still have the pictures that were shown or provided to the packet.
Right. Wow. Yes, do we have any questions?
Not at this moment.
Do we have a representative for this case?
Yeah, the applicant's here. Yep.
The Ms. Hughes is here. My name's Ed Roloff. It's okay if I speak on her behalf. I'm her attorney.
Just, your name and your address.
Office address is 44 High Street.
Thank you.
Alrighty. So if I could walk over here and point
Absolutely.
something out real quick. You all see where Doyle is?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I'll try to, yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And what you might not be able to see from your vantage point is where this sticker says 34.3. That's the neighbor that's on this gravel driveway.
Right.
And the gravel driveway leads to 34 point green dot where the arrows, or the arrows being circled, and that's where Ms. Hughes lives. So there was a dispute several months ago between the neighbor to whom I just referred and Ms. Hughes, and it resulted in a number of things, one of which was to get a survey of Ms. Hughes' property. And what we noticed, and you can't see this, but there's a shed that's located right about there.
Right.
And the way the shed is skewed, there's a corner of it that's about 1.2 feet over the property line.
Right.
So we agreed to move it.
Okay.
Now, the shed is approximately, and I'm assuming that you all have pictures that were referenced, it's probably about 10 feet by 6 or 7 feet wide. And it's been at that point where it's presently located, which is 1.1 corners, 1.2 across the property line for about 4 years. But because it's on the neighbor's property line, and that is a pretty interesting looking configuration for the lot, but it is, as it is, and so we agreed to move it. And of course, we had to get permission to move it, and that opened a whole Pandora's box because it appeared that the shed probably shouldn't have been placed there in the first place. So what Ms. Hughes would like to do is get permission from you to move it back about 10 feet. Now, if you have the pictures that Ms. Hughes provided to see the topography, you'll notice that there's really nowhere else to put it.
Right.
Except it could be moved into the backyard because the backyard would be flat enough, but our problem with the backyard is that it's fenced off for her dogs. And the dogs were one of the issues that we had with the neighbors. So we need to keep the fenced off backyard, and it's not a very big backyard, but there's room 10 feet back, away from the neighbor's house, away from the gravel driveway, more towards the side of the house. And I'm not sure if this dwelling, here's our gravel driveway, here's our dwelling, here's our shed.
Yep.
I'd be pleased to step forward if you wanted me to. So
I
you
would
could
like to
this.
see it closer.
Ma'am? Sir?
Yeah, and I don't believe that was provided with the application, so yeah, I would encourage you to share it with the board.
Yeah, you
Mind if I
could-
walk forward?
Yes,
No.
please.
This is the survey that was performed in February. So perhaps I can turn it this way, so it's consistent with our picture. Here's our gravel driveway, here's Doyle. Here's our neighbor, here's Miss Hughes. Here's Lestravia, but this topography here goes right down a hill.
Yep.
There's our shed.
Right.
And if you look a little bit closer, this is another picture, close-up of the
Right.
south building, and it's 1.2 feet right there.
And there is a pad there for the shed, or no?
Pad or concrete blocks, how is it?
Just out of-
stone blocks.
Stone blocks, okay, so it's, okay. Are you proposing a pad?
No,
No, okay, not that that's, just out of curiosity, all right.
no, it'll just
Sorry.
be on blocks like it is now.
Yeah. Would you like to get a better look at that?
So that's front yard. So, Mr. Yeager,
So here's the shed.
like for
And here
an
you can see it's
accessory
over right
building, a front yard setback, is it 10 feet?
Well, no, what the applicant's requesting is for a variance for that requirement that an accessory structure be not placed in the front yard.
No, I understand the front yard requirement, but in terms of, are they, okay, let me rephrase that. If we grant that in the front yard, and I understand why, if we grant the request,
I think it's
do
like-
we have to be in compliance? Are there
I
any
think
front yard
that's-
setbacks with respect to accessory buildings
Yeah.
that we need to be
Closer or
cognizant
whatever.
of?
No, there's none stated in the code, just the side and rear yard setbacks are specifically referenced.
And are we in the front yard? It is
I-
difficult to make that determination because we're moving back to the side of the house from Doyle. So we're extending beyond the gravel driveway.
Yeah,
We're going further away from Doyle.
right.
And it will end up being more
Yeah,
to the
and if-
side of that structure.
Right, yeah, you will be, because you won't be out in front of the
Front of the house.
front-oriented facade of the principal structure. I would call that side yard, because this is, I mean, it's not.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes. So long as we're considering Doyle to be,
so this is the front of the dwelling, that's the shared access drive. If it's going into this location, that would be considered the side yard. If it's anywhere in here,
that's front.
it would be.
So
considered-
Lestravia is actually the front.
This would be considered the front, and so then you would take and draw that line here. So, again, I don't know, this is where I think it's currently located. The survey plat shows where it's currently located right now?
That's my understanding, yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
gotcha. Yeah, so I mean, if it would move over there, then we would just be concerned about the setback for the
The
side
side yard
right.
setback. That's what I was, that was the reason for the question.
Is it moving
But,
over there?
So it looks as if they're proposing moving it clear over here.
Could you please show us where,
Yeah, can
could you show
are
us where you're
planning
planning on moving it
exactly
again,
where
please?
you're proposing to move it to?
I'm going to orientate.
And you can even, well, you don't want to draw on your schematic, but,
May I see where he's pointing to?
Sure.
Southern floor.
You mind if Mr. Wise joins us?
Not at all.
Okay.
I mean,
Stream on this.
for you.
Neighbor, us.
Yep.
Doyle, gravel, shed.
Mhm.
And if I understand it, we're going to move it in this direction.
yeah, but how far?
But we want to move it to 10 feet.
Well, it depends on how far I can move it because there's a drop off there. So I don't know if I can move it that far or if it'll be more than that. Because Yes, we have to allow for that drop off there.
And it can't be closer than the primary residence, that's clear. in Even the side yard, it can't be closer to the front, to the street than the primary residence.
That's what staff believe that the variance request was asking for, is to basically not comply with that. But again, we don't have where the building's going to be located
It's
yet.
too bad the contours aren't on your schematic.
Well, like this gentleman indicated, this use might need to perhaps provide you with some more pictures or information, which she'd be pleased to do.
Yep.
I would feel more comfortable knowing exactly where you're proposing to relocate the accessory structure to. We need to know that.
Yeah.
Is it going to be in the front, or is it going to be just like around the corner more? Because we have to know how, with regard to the side yard setback requirements, how much of a variance we're going with. Are we giving you 2 feet, or are we giving you 3 feet, or are we giving you 4, or whatever?
Yeah, in this picture right here, I mean, it looks like the side of the side of the home, so as if it would have
And
been,
Doyle's over that.
as if it would have been located there, but I don't know what that picture was supposed to indicate exactly.
So do we want to table
Table
this and pending a site plan?
Is there any way you could, we're not looking for you to do another survey, because surveys are
Costly.
very costly. But would there be, maybe get with the surveyor and maybe drop some contour lines on that schematic? And that's going to help you determine where are we going to have to put this, especially since you're not excavating, you're not pouring a slab. You're going to go with the piers.
How far from the property line do we have to be?
Well, for the side yard setback, Mr. Yeager, it's 5.
Correct.
5.
That's it.
From the
From the
property
side
line.
or rear property lines? Yep.
I don't think you want to go that, especially with regard, especially if it drops off there, you're not going to want to go, you're going to want to go not side yard, not front yard, maybe somewhere in between. And then, if you're putting it off that front corner of the principal structure, you may not need a side yard variance granted.
Well, if it's just the 5 feet from the property line, then we'll just do the 5 feet. Because if we do more, then that's when it would drop off. So we'll
Right.
just do the 5 feet.
So in other words, we need more information. Just because we want to be clear, and it's the edge of, it's the facade. If there's roof overhang, then if that falls into, it's right, it's the
Yeah, I think
footprint.
where the applicant's talking to moving it, I don't think that would be an issue.
Right. What we're concerned about is the accessory structure footprint. Where is that going to fall with respect to the side yard setback requirement of 5 feet?
Or the front yard.
Or the
Yeah,
front?
I don't think we'll ever have an issue with the side yard setback, because it's way down the hill at Lestravia, but I think
Okay.
it's probably the front. You don't think so?
Well, all right, I must have missed something, because it seemed like you were going to sandwich it right, there's the property line right there, and
Oh,
the
yeah.
principal structure's right there.
Right
You were
here.
seeming to indicate that you were going to,
Just move it off this right here,
right?
back. So we're not even close to Lestravia. That's a big hill.
No, between the principal structure and that other property line. That's what I'm concerned about.
Between this and this,
Yeah, I can get with the applicant and
Yeah, that's
discuss
perfect.
it already.
all right, if you're okay with that, we'll give you whatever
Table
information
it.
you need.
Why, yeah, so I move that we table this.
I second.
Consideration of this case pending just additional information regarding where exactly you're relocating your accessory structure to with respect to the property lines and the location of the principal structure.
we'll do.
Let's
We need a motion and a second.
Well, I
Yeah,
just moved
motion.
Oh, I'm
You
sorry.
second.
to table. And did you second?
I also seconded, yeah.
I say
So we
aye.
have,
We
we
have a
have,
question before you vote.
Yes.
Will we get a chance to respond in opposition if you table it?
So if,
well,
Let's just submit information why what they're saying won't fly.
well,
You mean right now?
Well, that's what we're saying, you're on table.
I don't
We
see
can
that
submit-
your submittal of additional information is material to whether we need more information.
Well, it will, I mean, and they're able to submit written and spoken comment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, do you have that additional now, or we're tabling and then you can submit?
I'd like to make a brief statement if I can.
By all means.
yeah, you opened the public hearing, correct, or you didn't? I don't know. Did you, I don't know if you.
No, you did
Okay.
not. Mm-mm.
No.
Okay, but, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to untable, and for the record, we're going to open public hearing then.
Okay.
So we're going to open the public hearing for this case, VAR 24-151. We have a public hearing and preliminary rebuttal to a proposed tabling. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'm Chilton Wise, I'm with Bowles Rice Law Firm, we're at 125 Hampton,
Right, yeah.
whatever. And I represent the Glodfelties who are there and there. They bought their property in 2017.
Right.
At the time, the driveway was a mess, and Mr. Glodfelties is a contractor. He took his equipment, improved the driveway, and built a place for Mrs. Hughes to park her cars. Instead of parking her cars there, she moved a shed in. She didn't get a permit, she moved her shed in. It's on the property line of the Glodfelties. When he objected, they began harassing him, but I want to stick to this. There is room in the back. They put up a fence for the dogs because the dogs were running loose, and the dogs had damaged the Glodfelties' car, and so that's why they had to fence in the dogs. They have plenty of room in the back. I don't think this board would have approved her placing a fence there or a shed there in the first place. There's plenty of room in the back. We just object to the variance because they have been conducting themselves outside the law. There's a civil action pending right now. There's an agreed order that's signed by Judge Scott, just so you know, that they've agreed to apply for a variance, or not for a variance, but to apply for a permit and move the shed. We don't care if they move it where it's supposed to be. There was never any agreement that they'd move it according to any variance. It was they were going to move the shed where you would have told them to put it, or move it off. And if they don't have room to do it, I don't think you would have approved it in the first place. You know, you'd have said, no, you can't put a shed there. But they didn't get a permit. They moved it in there. They're still trespassing. So we want them to have a variance to move it to their backyard so it's out of the way, and we don't have any problem with it. We just want to be good neighbors. And we have pictures of the shed. They've installed a doorbell and an air conditioner to the shed. You can't have people sleeping in the shed or otherwise have it designed for sleeping. We believe people are sleeping in the shed. There's traffic up there all hours of the night. We don't know what they're doing. We don't care, but they're trespassing is what they're doing. And so they need to move the shed off of our property in accordance to what your code says.
So they built a road for her?
They built the pad, they built what you asked about if there was a pad there. They built a nice parking area. She paid for the gravel, and he had his excavating equipment. He did everything.
So then is there an easement?
Yeah, they have an easement across our property
Okay.
to do it. And we improved it. We improved the easement for them. Didn't ask them for anything.
Right.
And they bought some gravel, and he even placed the gravel for them. and thinking that they would park their cars there. When they put the shed there, now they have to drive their cars and park them on our property. And so we objected, and when you call the police, it sounds like you're just complaining, but that's what this is about.
Right.
So the frontage, that's an established fact? Which side is the frontage?
I believe so, yes, the way the house is oriented.
So where that shed is now, is, as it exists, it's in violation? It's not
It's in
compliant?
front, yep.
What's in the
Nothing in
front? Plus it's over the
violation, it's
property
actually,
line.
it's actually, part of it's on our property.
Yeah.
Right, but it's in front, if
Right.
that's the front of the house, then the shed's in front of the principal
Yeah.
residence, so it's already non-compliant.
But I think the applicant is looking to try to get it in compliance.
Right.
So, yeah.
So if we move it down in that corner there. Who has the schematic? Can you please
Mr.
reapproach with the schematic? Right. Do we feel comfortable citing it here? And
Well, I mean, I think let them determine that, and I think we
Can
need
you
to see where
say-
the fence is, too. We need to see where the dog fence is, too. I mean, I think it would be good to add that.
I think we need a site plan before we can proceed.
Yes, I do.
because we don't know if you're going, if we suggest here,
We're willing to get you.
Okay.
well, and we're trying to be responsive to the other party here in
Right.
terms of timeliness.
I would be more comfortable proceeding with this because.
Because we don't
there's-
want to have to redo this.
There's issues with the fence, there's issues with the shed. Let's
We need
get a
to see
site
that.
plan.
Yeah, we
Let's
need
see
to see
what we're
that.
looking at and where.
Yeah,
we're
so
supposed to
we're
do
going to
that.
need like contour lines dropped on this schematic. And we're going to need like the fencing location.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So we can take that into account. We know where the property lines are,
Well,
so that we can satisfy the 5
You know,
yard.
What the,
the 5 foot.
what's the front of the structure? Because you mean, just make sure that's located, specified as the front, so you know what your sides are.
I think maybe over here,
Yeah.
Staff,
Well,
can-
that's-
in that corner.
Mr. Chair, staff can provide a reference in the code about how those lines get established.
There
And
you
the
go.
applicant can use that to make
There you go.
show where it is.
Let
on
me
the
have
plat.
I think we need to kick this back to the applicant.
Yeah, I
for
agree.
information.
I'm comfortable with, like, if we're citing or the site of the relocation, that's more in the front as opposed to side. I'm more concerned about getting this accessory structure off the property line and satisfying setback requirements.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, wait, do we need to close it?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, did we close the public hearing?
Well, no, go ahead, make your comment, and then we'll close the public hearing.
Well, we should probably close the public hearing.
Yeah. If there was
Is
a
there
better-
anyone else? Public hearing is still open. Any other comments before we close the public hearing? And this is effectively, we're needing more information. So we're effectively tabling, can we table without an let's close the public hearing. Okay, just point of order, I'm moving that we table this case pending additional information with respect to site plan. VAR 24-151. We're tabling this. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to table, seconded by Mr. Schombacher. How do we vote?
Aye.
Aye. We are tabling this case pending additional information with respect to site plan. Okay. Mr. Yeager, did you want to add? I think you wanted to make a statement.
No, as soon as that information is provided to staff, we'll get it back and get it back before the board.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay. So and it's just tabled. You don't need to reapply. It's just pending that additional information. Thank you for being flexible and being understanding so that we can do due diligence with respect to this case and deliberate properly. So we will see you. And planning will be in contact with everyone.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
We haven't adjourned, we haven't adjourned.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, do we have announcements from staff or any other?
I'll be brief. First, thank you for the accommodation. Appreciate that. And thank you for joining us this evening as an alternate.
Yeah,
Appreciate it
welcome.
very much. We have hired a new zoning administrator, Saylor Thompson.
Oh.
Will be starting on Monday.
Staler?
Saylor Thompson.
Sailor Thompson, okay.
Yes, ma'am. In addition, he'll be working and providing staff and technical assistance to this board, but of course, there'll be a training period and whatnot, so we're working with that, but we'll probably at our next meeting, Saylor will be here present, I'll probably be presenting, but Saylor will be here. And with respect to the last application, there are additional, I believe, 2 other items of business. So we will have a meeting in October pending, any additional information submitted by the previous applicant.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yeager. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
This meeting is so adjourned.